All right, I'm going to start it out because I started out our conversation earlier on this, but I really have to talk to you about your distraction from the madness. Your your chicks wearing short, or I'm sorry, your topless chicks wearing short skirts. How do you get away with that on your Facebook page?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Bill Taylor. If you have not met Bill, he's about to tell you about topless chicks.
In short skirts.
Wow. I was bored yesterday, so now this is going to become a topic of a podcast.
Yeah. This is what happens when you post such smut on your Facebook.
Yeah. So, yeah, clearly, I'm tired of all the negative stuff that's online. And I find that my role in social media is one to provide humor and kind of that comic relief. And I did see that picture of little chickens wearing what do you call those? Muffin wrappers?
Muffin liners.
Muffin liners.
Whatever, yeah.
As skirts. So it was topless chicks wearing short skirts.
It's just excellent.
Oh boy.
He was waiting for that.
I was waiting for that. I was absolutely waiting for that.
Had I known this would be a topic, I would have prepared a couple of more puns. But...
I have a feeling they'll come out.
Yeah, we know you're a punny person.
I do enjoy a pun.
Yeah. So, how's it going, Bill? It's been a while.
It has almost been a year.
Oh
it has been almost a year.
How could it be a year? You're looking younger.
That is true. Is that what retirement does?
Yeah, when you're not waking up at 4:30 in the morning to angry emails or texts or whatever, it's amazing. It's amazing what you can do. But no,
I was just going to say you've missed all the fun of working while COVID has been going on.
Yeah, boy, talk about good timing on that one because. Clearly I had made the plan of how to live without working and and I'm not having to deal with offices. And do you go into the office? Do you not? Do you sit behind your computer at home and do Zoom meetings, which I kind of did anyway, because I was almost a one-man show in the office we had in Michigan because the company that I was with before I left was in Scottsdale.
So you were familiar with the conference calls and all of that.
Yeah. So it's candidly, it worked out pretty damn fine for me.
Yeah, I think it's worked out so well that I can't be certain that Bill's not actually behind this pandemic.
I bet you it is. I never thought of it, but that very well could be. Very well could. But you say that, John, but Bill, you were still working. You might not be working in an office, but you're still working, right?
Yeah, by no means am I sitting in my recliner all day long. Matter of fact, I had to move it to the basement because it was too much of a temptation. But I made a rule that by 9 a.m. I was dressed and doing something every day, and that's at the latest. So, and that's good. But I've been busy, and I'll share a little bit about that in a minute. But one of the things that I found most rewarding, I think, John, I did this, and this is where I was able to get out and about and have a little social activity, was I volunteered at a local hospital. And we'd had a lot of family history at this particular hospital. And I decided that I wanted to give back. And there was an opportunity to become a pet therapy handler. So what I basically did was walk this particular black lab around to different patient rooms, into the main, anytime there were visitors, like the surgical lounges, whatever, and just basically spread sunshine everywhere I went, which was extremely rewarding.
I was going to say, that's a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
That is a really good gig. And I hate to take it this direction. It's a little bit dark, but I have to, because this is something that I have experience with. My mom passed away in 2010 in April, and she was on the hospice floor of a hospital. And back it up a little bit, my mom had 2 standard poodles, and she absolutely loved her dogs, and they were really very tight-knit group, the 3 of them. And my mom she was out of it. She was pretty much unconscious for about a week, and we were waiting. We were just waiting there, waiting for her to pass. And she just wouldn't go. She refused to go. And it wasn't until someone who was doing the very same thing that you were just talking about came into the room. It was a little Yorkie, came into the room and put the Yorkie in the bed with my mom, took her hand and used my mom's hand to pet the Yorkie. Wasn't 5 minutes later, my mom finally passed.
Wow.
And we feel like it was her wanting to say goodbye to her dogs or something like that.
Sure.
That allowed her to finally say, okay, it's time to go.
Wow. That's actually that's not a dark
well,
thing.
for some people it's dark.
I was starting to get a little bummed out, quite honestly, so I was going to sign off.
We do that a lot with our podcast, Bill.
Yeah.
I've walked in on some medical procedures that you don't want to be, witness to.
Well, okay, so just really quickly on that, so my doctor that I've had for a long time, just
Dr. Vinny
before
Boombounce?
he moved, it's not him, but that's funny. Every time he would come into the examination room, when I go in for an appointment, he would knock on the door and, I go, come in. I said, I got to ask you, what's the knocking? I'm here. What am I going to say? No, could you wait a minute? He said it stems from him walking in on a couple having sex in the exam room while he was waiting to examine the dude. And I said, come on. No, he walked in on them, getting it on in the doctor's office exam room. He says, so he knocks every time now. And
John,
so I try to make sound effects when he knocks, like that. So he thinks there might be something going on.
Wow, this is tying in with that dream I shared with you a couple weeks ago.
You and Nick both have dreams about me. I'm not sure what that's.
So
we're not sure either.
This
is
kind of
very
funny.
Scary.
It's funny, Nick. So I had this dream that my wife was having a medical procedure, and she wasn't, but that was the dream. And I was walking down the hallway to go to whatever room she was in. And as I was turning the corner to go into the room, in my dream, I said, who here wants a sponge bath? And Quaddy was sitting in that room with my wife, and he goes, I do.
Okay, so you're dreaming about Quaddy doing sponge baths. I was dreaming about him in a hotel room. So this is really going down the wrong type of rabbit hole.
Could you not see Quaddy do that?
Oh, absolutely. In a heartbeat. In a hotel room.
Well, or a doctor's office.
A doctor's office.
I think there's this latent wonder about me that you both share that I'm hoping it's not sexual, but I don't know. I can't swear
speaking of,
trust me, it's not sexual.
No, not at all.
Oh, ask Mary.
But speaking of,
I was in the room with her.
Speaking of sex in a doctor's office, not really. But
yes, wow.
Going back, you guys are reminding me of everything that happened in 2010. So my daughter was also born in 2010. Mm-hmm. And now I've had a lot of experience in doctor's offices, and every doctor and nurse knocks on the door, right? Or anyone for that matter. But we were at Vanderbilt Hospital, not the Children's Hospital, but that's where my wife was giving birth. And we'd been there for several hours, and it was just that time. And so, my wife is on the bed, everything's showing, legs towards the door. A doctor was in there, nurses were all around. I'm standing at the head of the bed with my wife's head. And all of a sudden, this guy runs in, and I can't remember what he had in his arms, but he had something in his arms. He runs in and he looks, the door flies open, curtain flies open, and he looks, and all of us stop what we're doing. And he has this look of fear on his face, and he just stands there for a half a second, and he can see my wife in all her splendor, baby on the way out. And then he just turns around and walks out. And it turns out he was a dad walking into the wrong room because he was trying to find his wife giving birth. But the only time no one's ever knocked on the door is when everything is showing. And yeah, it was.
I thought you were going to say he was just coming in to change the water bottle in the cooler.
No, the vodka bottle.
The vodka bottle, yes.
Land shark.
The whole lab thing though is cool, and I'm sure you had some great experiences in the hospital with that. Now, let's be clear, not your lab. You have Lucky,
Right.
who was a rescue, right?
Yeah, so
Your
no, there's
dog.
Lucky would create a lot of medical issues if I took him there. So yeah,
100%.
Lucky is, we had a DNA test on him because when we rescued him, he's about 25 pounds, kind of medium sized, but had a couple of weird distinguishing marks, and found out that he was half Chihuahua, half Border Collie.
Well,
That's an
must have been
interesting
a
mix.
So
fun-
he's
fun night.
a neurotic. What?
That must have been a fun night.
Oh
Was
my
the
God.
Chihuahua on top of the Border Collie, or was this? I'm just kind of trying to picture it in my mind's eye.
we don't have any evidence of what took place there, but
Well,
anyways,
you do have evidence.
we have Lucky. Yeah. Yeah. No, but getting back to the hospital has 2 dogs that they own, and they go home with one of the employees each night. I mean, the same employee. So they're really well taken care of. And so when I start my shift, which is only once a week, I go down to that employee's workstation and collect Hope. Hope is the one that's been assigned to me. And we make our rounds.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is really incredible. I love that service.
Yeah, which has not happened since mid-March for obvious reasons. They didn't want any of us in there. So
Hope didn't want to get COVID.
Yeah, it's interesting. In this case, the animals do not transmit that, but they can't catch it, but they can carry bacteria and germs on their fur. So when people go to pet them, we always offer up a hand sanitizer, or we did, because they said, "Oh no, I love dogs." It's like, well, you don't know what this dog has been touching.
Well, and I did hear one case, true or not. And I read it online, so I'm sure it's true, that a dog actually caught coronavirus.
Wow.
I don't know if it's true, but just one was the only thing. So Bill and we've compared this before. This is my dog, Bill, if you can see without the glare. I don't know if you can.
We can see a couch, and we can see can't really see. Indy is kind of blending in.
It's whited out.
Gosh, it sure is. Let's see.
Oh yeah, there you go.
He is. He kind of looked like Lucky.
Yeah, very similar. Matter of fact, very similar color.
Bigger. He's about 40 pounds.
Okay, but he probably doesn't bite people's ankles either.
No, but he has no Chihuahua in him. So,
nice.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, we have no idea what Indy is, what his mix is, but also a rescue.
So I'm going to go on the offensive here, guys, because I've been listening to your podcast, obviously religiously, and sometimes 2-3 times just to make sure I catch everything. You made reference recently to the PoddiPod trailer, and Nick kind of suggested that I've been slacking. I think at least that was the impression I got.
Nick,
not
are
slacking,
you okay, Bill?
Not slacking. I'm looking at I want to talk about that because folks, when you go and visit PoddiMouths.com, you'll notice there's a new tab at the top that says guests. On there, you're going to see Bill's name, Bill Taylor. You click on that name for right now. Eventually, I will be honest, eventually I will have a page there with a little bio and a nice picture, but you click there and it goes to VehicleNanny.com, which, Bill, I want you to talk about here in just a minute. But I am on that page right now on the homepage, and the very second blog that Bill has posted is Camper Renovation for Summer Fun.
Yes.
That is the perfect potty pod right there that I'm looking at, the picture of that camper. That's what I can see us all trying to huddle into after COVID, of course, because I don't think that's big enough to have 6 feet between us.
No.
That's what we're looking for. So no, I don't think you're slacking. I'm just waiting for it. That's all. That's what I'm trying to say.
So that one is kind of cool, Bill. It has Nick's colors. Nick is kind of a light teal in my mind.
It's funny. My best friend's last name is Teal.
Oh boy. Wow. Here we go.
Unrelated coincidences.
Yeah, right? It's not spelled the same.
Sorry, Nick Cubic.
That's right. I sent something to our friend Matt the other day. This morning, actually. I said, Random Thoughts by Nick Cubic. That's what that was.
So
I think that should be the new
I think
section on
Nick, if we make a trailer for you, I think we'd have to call it Cubics Rube.
I like it. I like it a lot. Absolutely. I'm all about that.
Nice. Like it.
Yep.
Like it.
Yeah.
Like
And what I really like though, Bill, is the shirt that you're wearing on top of your bio. You see that, John?
the shirt you're wearing on top of your bio.
He's wearing a shirt and
the PoddiMouths shirt that
Yep.
you guys sent me a year ago.
Oh, it's that shirt. Yes,
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
awesome.
So not only is he building a business and he has a good looking website, he's also wearing swag from the PoddiMouths.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Yep, he is. But
This
I
is
can't
why we
find the
like him.
link, strangely enough, to PoddiMouths.
What?
Oh,
I know.
that'll be
We
in
need
next
to-
week's blog.
We need some
Okay,
external
all right.
links because it's going to help our SEO.
We will absolutely. I just wanted to see how this one went.
Yes. well, it's still not
Well,
over.
Yeah, exactly. We're
Good point.
15 minutes
Lord,
in,
yeah.
16 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, Bill,
So
tell us. Oh, go ahead, John.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that's the Poddy Pod is just to remind our listeners, Nick, was what you had in mind for us to go. I wish we could figure out a business case for it, but we were just going to travel around the country and podcast out of a trailer. That sounds like one of your upcoming dreams about me. I'm not sure.
That does sound like a dream, but I also want to bring up something. I sent you a picture earlier today, John, and Bill. I don't think I forwarded it to you because I don't have your phone number. But I don't know if you can see this picture. I got that in the mail today.
Yes.
Can't really see it. It is a
Calculate?
pilot logbook.
Oh.
The FAA regulations for 2020, pilot handbook, aviation weather handbook, and the airplane flying handbook, along with a flight computer and all that good stuff. Which all that to say means I just got all my ground school information because I went ahead and bit the bullet, and I'm starting my ground school.
All right.
Starting flight training. So instead of a Poddy Pod, we might need a Poddy plane.
Okay. Well, I can't help you there.
Well, actually, I'm going to John Madden you if you decide to start flying. I'm gonna take the Poddy Pod and I'll meet you.
I wonder where that was going.
Yeah,
I did too.
Nick.
Did you see that confused look on my face?
I thought it was standard.
Yeah.
That's truer words have not been spoken.
Interesting.
Yes. So, are you gonna find a what kind of plane are you gonna look for a plane, or are you going to?
I don't know. That's way far in the future. I was just bringing that up because I finally did it. We've been talking about it on the podcast for almost as long as it's been since Bill's been on the podcast, and maybe even longer. And I finally want to let everyone know I did it. I bit the bullet. I spent the money. I got it all.
Gonna get his.
Wow. Well, congratulations. I can't wait to
Thanks.
follow you, and hopefully that works out for you.
I hope so. It's been, I was trying to explain it to my daughter this morning. It's been something I've dreamt about since I was younger than she is. So I'm looking forward to it. But
don't get a Bonanza.
I'm going to get a Bonanza. Darn it. I want to. I want to become a doctor too. Anyway, Bill.
Of course you do.
Tell us a little bit more about Vehicle Nanny.
All right. Well, thank you. And I think I was alluding to this last year when I was on without naming it, but one of the things I love very much, and John, you know this, and Nick, you've probably learned this, is I love old cars and trucks. And at the time we were podcasting last time, I was getting ready to sell my old GMC pickup, which I did. Thank you. And there's an interesting story there. It's been sold 3 more times. And the most recent owner found me on Facebook for whatever reason, said, I remember this truck being posted by you. I just want to make sure this was your truck. And I'm like, yes. Does it still have that rust hole in the floor? He goes, I didn't know that. And I'm like, oops.
Doesn't have to be full disclosure. It was sold as is.
But anyway, so yeah, let's stay on point here, Bill. Okay.
That's awesome.
So as part of that, one of the things I thought would be cool.
Hold on. You're a fan of our podcast and you want to get back on point. That doesn't happen on the PoddiMouths podcast.
I know, but I promised myself this time I would.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I will interrupt again for at least 30 seconds.
Yeah. So anyway, the intention was I wanted to buy a warehouse or lease a warehouse and store classic cars in the winter, because in Michigan, nobody drives those cars in the winter and nobody has garage space to put them. And there's actually a pretty good market for it, but I've not been successful finding the physical location. Had a lead on one, and I had a buddy who was going to go in on it with me, and he backed out. So Vehicle Nanny, the idea of taking care of your baby, Vehicle Nanny, evolved into this blog website where the nanny part is there to nurture your automotive interest. Because the other piece of my hobby or my fun is going to car shows on the weekends. And what I used to notice is younger people would try to make an entrance there, maybe even bring a vehicle, and the old guys, the guys that are like 10 years older than me, scoff at them. These are the old guys that got their Chevelles and GTOs, and they bought them when they came back from Vietnam, and they've had them ever since. And, you young guys got to get out of here. So I always made a point to talk to them and try to encourage them. So this is really an offshoot of that. But funny story. So I'm looking for a URL for this, and this is before Vehicle Nanny became a name. And John, you'll appreciate this. I brainstormed with Glenn Hardy on this. Sure. And I said, Glenn, I think for this warehouse idea, it's like, I want to, take care of your baby, take care of your toy. I said, I'm thinking maybe toywarehouse.com. He goes, let me stop you right there.
Yes. Because Glenn said, I already have that site bookmarked.
Think about that. I'm like, oh, crap. So anyway, I just started playing around with it and came up with Vehicle Nanny. And obviously, it now has double meaning. One, it could be to, if I ever want to help somebody take care of or store their car when that day comes, I can use it for that. But more importantly, I've been really enjoying sharing stories about cars. And it's about how do you get into this hobby in an affordable way? Because some people think I got to spend 30, 40 grand for a car, forget it. It's like, no, I don't spend more than $6,000 on an old car. And then I play around with it. Right. So as I'm doing this, a friend of mine, her son, 16-year-old son, was looking to get into the hobby and build a car. And I said, let me meet with him because I think he may be going down the wrong path. So as it turns out, had this 3-hour meeting with this young man. We charted out what his priorities were. And he went out and bought an 86 Pontiac Fiero, which he's in the middle of restoring, which is really cool. Really cool.
Wow. A Fiero?
No. Did you see my look too? Yeah.
A Pontiac Fiero has never been really cool.
Are you serious?
My gosh. They were so here's my Pontiac Fiero personal interaction.
Here's the rabbit hole.
Well, kind of. It will be. This is just one foot into the rabbit hole. My brother's first wife had a Pontiac Fiero after she had, when they were dating, an MGB Midget. Remember those?
Mm-hmm.
Cool car. Loved it. And as a kid, 16 years old, she let me drive it. So it was amazing. Then she traded it on this Fiero that
did it stay running?
Dad bought for her. The MG did. Yeah, it was great. The Fiero was a 4-speed because damn. And so she got that. And my brother inherited it when they got married. And Dave, my brother, cannot drive a manual transmission well. Let's just say. And the Fiero was probably the worst car for him to have because it was a 4-speed and it was terrible. It had, it was probably that 1.8 liter engine. Remember, Bill, that GM had that was kind of their standard.
That was
standard engine.
The 2.5 liter Iron
2.5. Duke. So it was the same one that was in the Olds Omega and the Chevy Citation. A ball of fire, that engine. Anyway, but you're right. You can't call it out just for what it is, but I was never a Fiero fan. Although I never really liked the X11 either, the Citation. Remember those?
I had one. Loved it.
Oh, well, I had one for a demo.
Okay.
I didn't care.
Well, again, put in perspective of what was around in 1981 or whatever. But, the point of the Fiero is these younger folks are looking for affordable cars, things that they consider classic, are things that are like, what, from 20 years ago, whereas, when maybe after they were born, look at me, if I was going to look at something from the 1960s, they're going to look at something from the 80s, 90s. And I don't know if you ever heard of Haggerty Insurance, but they insure collector cars. And they do a lot of great research. And this is where one of my articles on Vehicle Nanny was about the future of the hobby. And it was interesting. They just came out with this article about it. And they're showing, first of all, are the kids all right? I think was the name of the article. But, were they looking at this hobby and embracing it? And sure enough, they were getting quotes on vehicles. And they said that there was like a 400% increase in the traffic and the number of quotes on cars like the Mazda Miata, like the early, the NA version, the YJ Wrangler, Nick. You're a Wrangler guy. You don't like the square headlamps, but certainly for someone young, they can afford that. Or an 86 F-Series pickup. So to them, those are the classics. And guess what? They're pretty affordable. So, so I embrace that, and I really want to nurture that. And so for now, that's my point, is to try to just keep it alive and teaching them about the different things. I think the warehouse will come. And when I get that warehouse, then I'm going to have the space to do the trailer renovation. And
nice.
So you see how I came back to that?
There's a method to all of this.
There is. So I want to show you.
Nick is so much younger than I am that he's actually going to start collecting Pontiac Aztecs. So
I like those too.
Very supportive.
So I used to love the Fiero when I was a kid, and my mom always said, "You're never going to have a car like that. It's too small." Then the very first car that I drove, not my very first car that I owned that was mine, but my car, my Oldsmobile was in the shop. So the first 2 weeks I had my driver's license, I drove my mom's Miata to school.
Awesome.
So it's like, thinking back on that, going, you told me I could never have a Fiero because it was too small, but then you let me drive a Miata to school.
I cannot get into the early Miatas because of my legs. I just can't. And whereas the Fiero, I could. So she lied.
So I'm going to show you this picture just because you like classic cars. But my uncle is big into classic cars, and he's had many, many, many over the years. But this is the only one he has left right now. Is my aunt sitting in it. But I appreciate it.
Yeah, a nice tea bucket.
Yep. He built that.
They're fun. And that's usually where a lot of guys will start out, because it's basically just engine, transmission, and oh, by the way, here's a little body to put on it. Yeah. His other last one, I think he just went on to a Mustang, but before that he did a Camaro, like a 1984 or 85 Camaro.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, Bill, you do it a little differently. And I mean, there are, just like anything, there are levels and layers. But you, and I think I could be wrong, but you're not the guy to go out, as you said, and buy the $40,000 already done Dave Kindig thing, which I think are awesome cars. And if money were no object, Kindig you couldn't touch probably for under 100, but I mean, he does some awesome stuff. You do the as you said, entry level, maybe price range vehicles.
Yeah.
And then you have the ability to fix them, whether it's engine work. And you said there's one you don't do transmissions. What was it that you said?
But as it turns out, I do, because it's necessity is there. But you were right. I mean, I'd rather not dig into it, but I have, and I'd rather not repeat it, but I can, and I have. Yeah. But my big thing these days is people are having me paint their wheels to change the color.
That's been done for, you started that, now Glenn's wasn't your first, was it? Our mutual friend Glenn?
No, Glenn was never my first, just to be clear.
Yeah, how about his wheels?
No, I've been doing that a while, but it's funny because now all of a sudden, my brother, who screwed up his wheels, wants me to, do not just change the color, but he wants me to fix them and everything else. So I'm gonna put a little wobble, curb rash,
Scraped them, yeah.
But I love painting, and to be able to do wheels, I love changing, because you can change the whole personality of a car by changing the look of the wheels.
Hey, you did a great job on Glenton's on his Corvette. That was really a nice job on his wheels.
It's fun. It's so rewarding because it's a pretty quick, turnaround, and it's fun.
Didn't you do them in your basement though? Wasn't that the problem?
Well, getting back to my parents' condo, when they're in Florida, I used to take them over there and do them in my mom's kitchen.
What's for dinner tonight? I hope it's something red.
But, they were gone for 4 or 5 months at a time. So, but it was great because the kitchen, it's heated, good humidity levels. I mean, you couldn't beat it. It just, unfortunately, I had to wet sand the tile floor to get the overspray off.
I was going to say,
no.
What color is this counter? Well, it's sort of a metallic overspray look.
It's all good. It's all good. Nobody was the wiser. We sold that condo, so all evidence is gone.
Oh, that's beautiful. So
That's really
I had some interesting work looking at kind of the hot rods or the retro vehicles that some of the manufacturers did. You remember in the early 80s to 90s or 90s and after, a lot of the manufacturers started going retro with some of their vehicles. And one of the first ones was a vehicle from Plymouth. Do you remember what it was?
Are you thinking of the Prowler?
I am thinking of the Prowler.
All right.
And I found out how that sort of originated, which really interested me because they had a contest in Pasadena, California for college students to do drawings with that sort of a mindset of a retro sort of a thing. And the one they chose to sort of replicate was a guy by the name of Chip Foose.
Ah, yes.
He drew it and he named it the Hemisphere. And it looked remarkably like what eventually turned into the Prowler.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the entry into it because so the real question, because I know you know cars like the back of your hand, that the real question is what other manufacturer vehicles were those retros that kind of came out? Do you remember?
Nobody told me there'd be a quiz.
Well, come on. This is
Okay.
the best part.
Well, I mean,
I know you know some of them.
Yeah, Ford did a Thunderbird, as we know.
Correct. Didn't last too long.
No, it didn't. And of course,
But still very popular by the people that bought them.
Yes,
do you have one?
No.
Did
no,
you?
But when one of the dealerships that I worked at, the owner had one and it was sitting on our showroom floor. And there were so many people that came in and offered big money for that car.
Really?
And he refused to sell it. Yeah.
I bet he wishes he sold it now.
I don't know.
They're just not quite as popular as and that it's not alone. It's not just the Thunderbird. What other ones, Bill?
Well, of course, the PT Cruiser was, I guess, inspired by something older, which then
I hated that car.
Yeah, it sold really well for a while, but
it did. What was the platform it was built on?
Is it the K car?
It was a Neon.
Okay, that makes sense.
Really?
It was a Dodge Neon, or they actually used Neon in multiple lines, but it was it was the same car. They just skinned it differently.
So that would be like the Chevy HHR was based on the Cobalt.
The Cobalt.
And it was supposed to be inspired by the original, like 1946 Chevy Suburban.
Or yeah, right, exactly.
It was nowhere close in size to that, but yeah,
pickup. It was a Suburban. You're absolutely right. No, it wasn't even close. We owned one.
Did you?
Yes, my wife and I had one because it was 2.4% interest financing. We thought, hey, this will be a good car, and I took her, I think, from an Acura into an HHR, and that was not a good move on my part. We didn't have it that long.
So how long do you want this to go on, John? I could listen.
Hours.
We're losing Nick, so no.
Yeah,
no, he's still with us.
But it's interesting.
We've got at least 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I like the tribute that creates, whether it's with the Dodge Challenger or even when the Camaro came back, right? It was based on the '69 Camaro. Mm-hmm. It's great to be inspired by that. I think if you try to copy it too closely, you lose something. Both ends lose it. The original and the copy. So I like I like a lot of the weird stuff. So you tease about the Pontiac Aztec. I love the Aztec, so I'm sorry because it was highly usable. I mean, a lot of stuff
It
you can
was
do.
usable, and I would tease about the Dodge Caravan as well of old. Probably the first minivan, if you were going to qualify it as that. But it probably saved them on many levels over the years. It was quite a vehicle.
Very popular.
Chevy had the sportier version with was it the SSR?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Also, I'm not sure it lived up to what they had hoped it would, but it had like a Corvette engine in it.
Yeah, so it was a Trailblazer is what it was based on, but it did have the 6.2 from the Corvette and everything else.
Yeah.
And the guy who was the head of marketing for that product at Chevrolet came over to Saturn when I was at Saturn. And so just after that thing launched, and he was proud as could be. It was like a proud papa. And then within 3 months, he went into hiding because it just was not a good car.
Yeah, it was different. And one last one, and Nick and I promise I will take a step back. No, I won't.
No, you won't.
One of the other retro ones that I hadn't identified when I looked at the Prowler was the new Beetle.
Oh yeah, there you go. How could I forget that?
Retro, I know, but it was probably one of the better done ones, if for no other reason, because it as much as people loved the old Beetle, the new one was, I mean, head and shoulders better.
Yeah. Trust me, it was.
Well, exactly. And so that's, I was kind of surprised I didn't, really even register that, because for a long time that was people didn't even look at the new or the old Beetle anymore. They were just like, why would I?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So with that, what about some of the newer ones that are coming out, with the re-release of the Bronco and what else we got coming out? We had the Gladiator that came out.
Yeah. I like the concept of the Gladiator because of the, it's different. How many pickups are out there, and it's. I used to be in a commercial truck group at Chevrolet, and we were so proud when the full-size van came out in 97, I think it was. And we were at a conference, and somebody who was with one of the truck upfitters said, "You realize it's just a box on wheels." And it totally deflated everybody. So I'm afraid that some of these are kind of to me like a box on wheels, but the Gladiator, I think, is a nifty concept. I think there's been so much price creep with these newer vehicles that,
insane.
As much as I love cars, I hate spending more than 20 grand on a new one, and that's just not going to happen. I can't keep buying Chevy Sonics,
That actually would have bought you an Oldsmobile Tornado, as we have spoken before, in 1981.
Okay.
82, maybe.
The Bronco, Nick, I've only seen, probably you've seen, kind of silhouettes of them.
Mm-hmm.
If it turns out like I'm thinking it is, I think it's going to be killer. And
I agree 100%.
And I come from an old line of K5 Blazer. My dad was part of the original development engineers on that vehicle, so I've got a soft spot for it. Bronco was always the enemy, but Chevy did not do the Blazer name any favors with this new crossover they did, and I'm really ashamed. Matter of fact, I feel like peeling the name off of these vehicles every time I see one. That's not a Blazer.
Right? Yeah, I did my driver's test in a Blazer.
The K5 or an S10?
S10.
Oh.
I'm young. I'm sorry. I know young. I look a lot older, but I'm young.
For a moment there, I was gonna really like you.
No, my family had a K5. I just never drove it because I was too young.
But my point is that Bronco, from what I've seen, I could see myself in one, because I think they went back to what the intent of that vehicle was. And I think it's going to give Wrangler a run for its money if everything comes out like it is.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I question whether the production numbers are going to support that. I think at first they're going to try to make it a limited production to manage profitability. I could be wrong, but that's because there has been such an appetite in the marketplace for the new Bronco.
Yeah.
For many years. So I don't know. I don't know.
It'd be interesting to find out.
Wrangler has something that's just, there's something 007 about the Wrangler. It just keeps holding up and coming back over and over in different iterations. And I think I'm not crazy about the pickup.
No,
I'm
I'm
just
not either.
not.
I'm disappointed.
But it
Really?
looks good with big wheels. If you put a
Yes.
3-inch lift kit on it and 30s on it, it really does look pretty good.
Well, and so does the original
Yeah.
The original what? Oh, the original like
Gladiator.
um yeah, I guess I'd
You
have
need to
take
look
a
it up.
closer look at
Yeah.
it, but
I wish they'd bring back the Wagoneer,
yeah.
the old Woody Wagoneer.
Or
That'd be
the
nice.
Thing.
You know, and
The
I think
Thing.
styling like that, you could pull that off today. You could pull off
Yeah.
that styling today, and I think it
Oh,
would be well received.
sure. I'm not sure about the Woody part, although, I mean, 'cause it's
I've seen a few Woodies.
something about shelf paper on the outside of a car. Yeah, I bet you have. Gosh. Yeah, but it's true. I love that body style, and we had the old, Cherokee, the boxy what and it was awesome. We ended up getting a Grand Cherokee too, and they were both nice, but there's just a soft spot in my heart for the old Cherokee.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Goonies would not be Goonies without the Cherokee.
Wow, here we go
I had to go there.
How do we
I
end
had
up
to go
with
there
Goonies all the time?
because I'm a Goonie.
You are a Goonie.
I have never seen that movie.
Nor have
I'm
I.
aware of it. I'm aware of it.
Exactly.
You two need to get when we get the Pod, we will sit and we will watch Goonies. We
Only
won't do it inside. We'll project it on the side of the Pod.
Ah,
only if it's
But we'll watch the
historically
Goonies.
accurate. If the Pod is older than the movie, sorry, we're not doing it. We'll watch
Hey, that's fine.
Doris
You
Day
know,
movie.
it's strangely enough, you can actually see I'm really nerding out. You can actually see Richard Donner, who was directing the movie. You can see his camper in one of the shots, his trailer, because the house in Goonies is on top of a hill, and one of the shots they were panning.
I was just
They
going
were
to say
panning
that.
across the landscape, and in some of the behind the scenes, they were pointing down, saying that's Richard Donner's camper sitting in the parking lot. So it was, yeah.
Is it panning if the cameras turn 90 degrees?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It is panning
you,
side to side.
Thank you. Oh, man.
I do listen.
Yes, well, yes, but you
Somebody
said it
has to.
verbally better than I showed it literally to him.
Yeah.
I turned my camera and I'm like, clicked up. That's panning.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
So how are
Yeah.
you guys holding up with working from home and do you anticipate getting out in front of dealers or clients anytime soon?
take that.
So, no, I was going to say, how's your day?
Oh no.
I will be honest, and hopefully we have made our bosses bored enough right now that they've shut off the podcast. But I actually enjoy working from home. I always have. I spend a lot of time on the road. I spend a lot of time in hotels. So being home quite often has been kind of a blessing over the last few months. That being said, I miss driving. I miss traveling. I say this very loosely. I don't want to say I wish, but it would be nice to have dealers that I work with that are much closer to me, so I could come home at night more often. That would be ideal. But yeah, I am one of few people I would say is probably really enjoying the whole work from home thing.
Well, I think that makes you better if you enjoy it. I mean, I think it makes what you do more impactful, more effective for the dealers. If you're struggling with, I hate this, your performance is going to show that too. So,
I don't want to say I hate it. Don't ever put those words in my mouth. I don't hate it.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about I was giving you a compliment. You
Oh,
like it,
oh.
so you do it better. If you
I
didn't
see.
like being at home, you would probably suck at your interaction
I see what you're saying.
if
Okay.
you weren't there. So, and I say that because I just got off a call not long ago with a client, and it was awesome. I mean, it was really good. We had a good conversation, and he appreciated it. And so, it is what you make of it. I think it goes back to
I
the
agree.
old Jim Rohn saying that it's not important what happens to you. What's important is what you do with what happens to you.
Yeah. Are they embracing digital retailing now? Because I've been thinking about, what was it, John, 7, 8 years ago when we were doing those conferences and trying to impart the wisdom that we knew about digital retailing, digital
Yep.
marketing with, at large groups across the country, and they kind of resisted. And then I'm obviously seeing a lot that's been happening as a result of COVID, where they're
Mm.
selling cars online or doing a lot of transaction online and, doing things remotely, thinking, damn it, why didn't we have a pandemic back when I was doing this?
Right?
Exactly.
I actually have a really good answer for this, because this is something that is topic of a conversation quite often with my immediate team. We have dealers that are embracing it and they are very successful. And then we have dealers that aren't. And there really isn't anyone in between that's just kind of
Yeah.
ignoring it.
Yeah.
So we've seen an uptick in the amount of people that have been using it. But here's the key to the ones that are the most successful with it: has everything to do with training. If they're willing to train their people and they do a good job training their people, they have seen an insane amount of success.
Sure.
I have one of my stores who actually during the pandemic sold 103% over what they sold previous year,
Wow.
just because they trained their staff up, and they actually they closed their dealership, sent everyone home, and had them work from home, and their sales is still up. Are still up. I should say it properly. Their sales are still up. So it's amazing what you can do with a little bit of training and a little bit of understanding what digital retailing can actually do for you.
Well, sure, and obviously the training creates buy-in, and that's what
Mhm.
that's what's missing. If you don't know what the end goal is, or if you don't know the whole process, hey, resistance is there. I mean, that's we've seen
Sure.
that. I mean, that's the basics. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
it's interesting. I'm kind of curious beyond automotive what will come from what we're experiencing now, and what other services are going to change dramatically. And I've joked about it on Facebook, but I'm almost half serious about going back to the old, in Michigan, it was the Twin Pines dairy truck that would come down your street. And I know we've got food delivery with Shipped or
Mhm.
whatever else, but at what point will you see a convenience store on wheels and people who are stuck at home and this comes in front of their house? I don't know. I mean, I'm not looking
That's
to start one, but it's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
there actually are some that exist. They weren't made for this specific time. It wasn't made for a pandemic, but there are some people that have taken buses, either old city buses or old school buses, and converted them into grocery stores.
Nice.
And they drive them into urban areas that don't have, for those people that don't have access to fresh produce. So it's mostly produce. They do have a few other things, but yeah, they have been. I think that would be a phenomenal idea, and I thought when I saw the article on that would be a fantastic thing to do everywhere. It's just allow people to do that. But I think you bring up a great point too. Plenty of articles right now about Uber trying to move into. They purchased I think last year or maybe 2 years ago a company in, where was it? South America, maybe? I don't remember. I know they've piloted it in South America and they're about to bring it to the US in the next few months. But Uber will now start delivering groceries as well,
Hmm.
along with their Uber Eats.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of movement in that area.
Well, and I think some of it's reactionary too, because uh, you find it interesting, and Bill, you'll appreciate this because we've had a lot of our clients who contact us immediately after COVID became a thing, and they thought, "Gosh, the only way we're going to be able to sell vehicles is if we have digital retailing." And so suddenly they're, 2 weeks ago, as Nick alluded to, they were saying, "Oh no, that stuff that doesn't work." And now suddenly they're, "I'm all in if you can get this installed tomorrow."
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but it's, as Nick said too, it's the process that really has to change. But it's become a thing that even if people, and we know that Capgemini did a study years ago that said 1/3 of people said they would buy cars sight unseen. It's a hand raiser survey, so I don't believe them, because in reality, the number is probably going up, but that's not what happens. the reason for online retailing, at least in the automotive industry, is that it shows your transparency. I'm willing to do it however you want to take the process.
Right.
Right.
And because as soon as we say, I'm not going to give you a price, but what's your phone number?
You're
trying
done.
to steer them. Exactly.
You're done.
You're trying to steer them down your pathway, not theirs. And it's not up to the seller.
And this is a very unpopular opinion, but I'm used to mentioning unpopular opinions on this podcast.
Yes, you are.
Nice.
So we're going to go to that sight unseen, but part of that whole concern over sight unseen has been more, I think, in line with the dealer's feeling about allowing a customer to return a vehicle. Meaning, if it doesn't have to be sight unseen, but if you bring a vehicle to somebody or you deliver a vehicle, we always had that saying, when I sold too, once they drive it over that curb, it's theirs. It's 100% theirs. The only way they can bring it back is if they trade into something else. But to be able to be successful at this, we have to give people a grace period, that test drive, that grace period, where they have 3 to 7 days to say, no, not me, and they can return it.
If you deliver it to their house in most states, they have the 3-day right of rescission.
Yes.
And so they can actually, they have 72 hours in most states that they can bring it back. However, if they take delivery at the dealership, then they
drive it over the curb. Right.
Then it's gone.
Well, I think
you're right. I think that 7 days is a key.
Yeah, I think isn't Carvana, they do the 7 day?
7 days.
They do.
So I guess they hold the paperwork for 7 days. I mean,
before they draft on it.
Yeah, that I don't know how that works.
I don't know.
That's well above my pay grade. But
and I'm sure, and it's when you have something like a Carvana that organizationally can do it instantaneously across the board. They don't have to say, well, what are they doing in Nashville or what? I mean, it has to fall within legal realm, of course, but 7 days makes it safe. Pretty much.
No, I don't care what anyone says. Carvana's doing an exceptional job because right now their stock is at almost $140 per share. So,
well, tell that to Elon Musk.
Yeah, wow.
Well, yeah,
so
that's you can't even touch that one.
Overvalued, but you do what you do. I think. I mean, you've long been, and I'm a fan of Carvana. I think they do a lot of things right. When you look at their website, man, it's incredible. As a potential buyer, though, and Bill, I have a buddy who went to the BMW experience in Spartanburg, North Carolina, or South Carolina, whatever it is, Greenville, Spartanburg, yeah. And he drove an M2, and he said, oh my gosh, it was life-changing. And so I thought, I'm going to look on Carvana for M3s and M2s. And I looked at, honestly, they had like 6 of them in the M class. Everyone had an offer on. And so it's a little frustrating when you kind of, I wonder what kind of numbers, and you look at it, you go, oh, this is cool. Deal pending.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
What a nice problem for Carvana to have, though, right?
Oh, my gosh, yeah. Well, and you look at them, and they're still only responsible for 1% of the vehicles sold in the U.S.
Sure.
As big as they are, as huge as their inventory is, and so on.
I still look at them less as a viable place to buy cars, because I've looked at cars on there, and maybe it's too many years in the car business, but I'm not going to pay their interest rates. Even with great credit, you still have a very high interest rate.
I didn't realize that. I guess I never took it that far.
Yeah, I looked at those. I'm just like, no, I'm not. So I'm not paying.
What are we talking?
Well, I think it was like 8 or 9%.
Oh gosh.
Whoa.
Okay.
When I did it, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Wow.
Great for most people though. If it fits in your budget, most people don't look at interest rates. They're like, okay, that fits within my payment range. They should, but hey, I can afford $350 a month. That car is what I want, and it's less than $350 a month. I'm going to buy it. Yeah. That's how they look at it.
If you could pay cash, if you're in a position to pay cash, their pricing is not bad. I've seen some vehicles that are
their pricing is not
relatively. No, I mean they're in. They are trying to pick some of the better vehicles from auction and whatnot. So they're, many times lower miles. So,
Yep.
It's just that you got to know what you want. It's like, hey,
Exactly.
I like the Honda Ridgeline, but I really need to drive it. So if you've driven it, you say, look, I know what I want. If they have it, then I'll go through the process. So I know you guys have covered this before, as have every expert out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and the one
with-
thing, I'm sorry, Nick, go ahead.
I was going to say my only thing with Carvana, it's has nothing to do with the sale of the cars or anything like that. It's really, this is what customers have told us they want. And that's why they're I'm putting quotes in the air, as successful, because we do know that they're not profitable, but they are very successful, hence the stock price.
Right.
This is how we need to start looking at our business moving forward.
So while I don't disagree with any of that, on some level, it's because you can't see the vehicle in person. So it's still the car business, though. And a friend of mine who runs a dealership group he wanted to know, what's Carvana doing? What do they? And I may have mentioned this before. It was brilliant. He said, well, let's just buy a car from them and see how it goes. And they got it delivered. Process was okay. Smelled like cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like you would get any place. It's still a used car.
Right.
And so you can't take everything out of it. We look at them online and, man, that nice website does some amazing things because they don't hide anything. They circle a little scratch and it's great, but there's no scratch and sniff.
But then again,
shopping for houses online,
Then we go back to the fact that they have a 7-day return policy. You don't want it, send it back.
That's right.
We are trained to shop on Amazon.
Sure.
And if you don't like what you get from Amazon, you return it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I mean by all of that.
But it's not necessarily even that anymore. We got some stuff from Wayfair, and Lisa didn't like it and got somebody on the phone, and she said, so I just need to know how to return it. They said, don't worry, we'll send you a new one. It costs them more sometimes to return the stuff, and they just say, keep it.
Yeah.
And if you can figure out what those products are, you're
Was that Wayfair you said?
Well, okay, so speaking of, I just ordered yesterday, because we've talked about them before on the podcast, John. I've got to look it up. I just ordered a new set of headphones.
Yes.
From unclaimedbaggage.com.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Wow. Seriously.
Yes.
Wow.
They were exceedingly or excessively cheap.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. They were about a 40% discount on what they would be new. It was great.
By chance, was that from American Airlines flight 733?
Yes. If Bill,
I'm sorry. This was United.
All of your headphones.
They've got some really interesting stuff on there. They had watches and tablets and computers, and I'm like, I like this site. This is cool.
Well, especially when you log in and you find out that some of it's yours.
Right. Exactly. I was able to get some of my underwear back.
Oh boy. What I did find out on that front, and I do that, and you guys do this all the time, right? You try to do your personal inventory before you leave the plane, but sometimes you're in a rush to get off the plane. I did that once, and I was like, oh crap, I left my tablet in the seat back. And so I tried to reboard the plane. I was still in the jetway. Oh my God. You would have thought I was Charles Manson or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. See how our time flies with Bill? Oh my goodness.
Speaking of time, we're going to have to end it here. Yes. I mean, we could talk for another hour and a half, I'm sure.
Funny how that works.
Well,
I know. And maybe we'll have to do it again. We'll have our third podcast. You're our first return guest because I don't count Peyton.
I'm a repeater.
We call him Boomerang Bill.
Boomerang Bill. That's a good name. I'm going to change it on the website right now. But speaking of,
that's VehicleNanny.com.
VehicleNanny.com. Exactly. You can visit VehicleNanny.com. Right. You can visit VehicleNanny.com by going up to PoddiMouths.com and looking for Bill's name up there in the menu. But you can also leave comments about this show on our social media by heading up to PoddiMouths.com and clicking on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Or you can head to, Bill?
Oh my God.
This is
You go to the Facebook page. I mean, you guys are everywhere.
no, I'm talking about you.
Come to vehiclenanny.com tomorrow and see the link there.
There you go.
Perfect.
That's what I was trying. I was getting there.
Yeah, I was
Anyway.
blown out, so sorry.
See, you know, you're going to have to listen to this. This is going to be one of your longer walks. Bill, it was fantastic to have you back. I really appreciate you coming on. John, not so fantastic. Anyway,
wow, hey,
folks, we will see you next week or talk to you next week, I guess.
thanks, Bill.
See ya.